All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the East Bay Regional Park District's Community Engagement Meeting. We're here today to provide updates on two really exciting projects, the Tidewater Day Use Area and the Doolittle Bay Trail and Shoreline Improvement projects. My name is Katie Hornbeck, and I'm the Acting Grants Manager. We also have Park District staff here from several different departments, including park operations, interpretive and recreation services, government and legislative affairs, stewardship, design and construction, planning, and public affairs. Both projects we're providing updates on today have already held public input meetings and are close to construction starting. So again, the purpose of today is to give an update on where each of these projects are at. As folks are being continued to be let into the meeting, I'll just go over a few housekeeping items. One is that there will be two opportunities for Q&A. Toby will give a presentation on each project, and following each project presentation, there'll be about 10 minutes for questions. Those questions will be received through the chat function, which should be sort of at the bottom of your screen called chat. And you click on that and you can put your question in there, and I will read those out to the group. If you are watching on YouTube, whether live or later this week or in the future, and you have questions on the project, you can go ahead and email me. My email's on the screen right now in the bottom right-hand corner. And it's khornbeck@ebparks.org, and I can forward those to the right people and get a response for you. So with that said, I'd like to introduce now Director Ellen Corbett. She's on the Park District's Board of Directors, and she represents Ward 4, which includes the Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline, and she currently serves as our board president. So welcome, Director Corbett.
Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you so much for organizing this meeting, and to all the amazing staff we're going to be hearing from in just a few minutes. Let me just also again welcome everybody to this virtual community engagement meeting, our new way of doing things during COVID. And we're here to talk about the Martin Luther King Jr. Shoreline, Tidewater Public Access, and the Doolittle Bay Trail and Shoreline Access projects. So once again, thank you to all of you who have joined us. And I want to introduce just a few people and say a few more things about these two beautiful parks. I'm so pleased that our council member from the local area, Councilmember Noel Gallo, is with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have staff from some of our other wonderful elected officials' offices. We have Alex Katz joining us from Congresswoman Barbara Lee's office. We have Margaret O'Hanlon Grady joining us from Senator Nancy Skinner's office. And we have Rediat Bayeh from Assemblymember Rob Bonta's office. So thank you for joining us. And let me just say, we're here to talk about two really beautiful parks and the progress of two great projects. These are certainly jewels of open space in the middle of our urban landscape, a place where people can take a hike, walk your dog, have a picnic, do much more once COVID is over, but home to beautiful marshlands and shoreline and many, many wonderful species as well that we take care of in our stewardship programs. So if you haven't seen these beautiful, if you have seen these beautiful parks, you know what special places they are. If you have not seen them, please join us, take advantage of these beautiful parks. It's a great place to get out right now and get a little walk in while we're sheltering in place, but just make sure you wear your mask, keep your distance, and wash your hands. And but we're welcome to see you in the parks. So with that, let me turn it back over to Katie Hornbeck, and Katie will be introducing our staff who will be presenting these projects to you this evening. And once again, thank you all for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you during the public comments section.
Thank you, Director Corbett. Before I introduce our first speaker, we're going to do a quick poll. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And so in a moment, you should see a poll question box pop up on your screen. I'm sharing my screen right now for those of you who are watching on YouTube later. We're asking 3 poll questions. So Robin, if you can go ahead and launch those if they haven't already been launched. The first is, how often do you visit Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline? The second is, when you do visit, what activities do you like to do? And then how are you participating today? So we just want to get a chance to see who's all here and your experience at the park, if any, and what you like to do there. So I'll give everyone about a minute or so to put in their responses. And again, if you are watching from home, you can respond by sending me an email later. We still would like to capture who all decided to participate today. And it looks like almost everybody's responded. So I'll go ahead. Robin, I don't know if you're able to share the results, but from what I'm seeing is it looks like at least half of the folks who are participating in the poll visit MLK a handful of times a year. Only 1 or 2 people have never been, so that's great. When they do visit the park, more than half of the participants go to walk, run, hike, or bike. And then it looks like about a third of the group likes to go bird watching. And then people participating today, about a third of the group are Oakland or Alameda residences. So thank you so much for coming to participate. And the other half of the group, it says other. So if you are welcome to put in the chat box what other means, or if you'd like to say specifically what nonprofit or church or community organization you're from, we would love to know who decided to come today. So you can put that in the chat, or again, just email me directly and let me know. And I think we can go ahead and end the polling now, Robin, since we pretty much captured everybody. So thank you. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. This is Lisa Brotman. She's the park supervisor for the Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline, and she's going to give a brief history and overview of the park. So Lisa, whenever you're ready, let me know and I'll click through the slides for you.
All right. MLK Jr. Regional Shoreline is located in East Oakland and surrounds most of San Leandro Bay. It is a jewel in an industrial area that has fantastic views of sunrises and sunsets that many different park users enjoy daily. It is composed of important tidal salt marshes, seasonal wetlands, and has 4 major creeks or sloughs entering it. On the north end of the park is East Creek Slough. Moving south is Damon Slough. Next is Elmhurst Creek. And at the south end of the park is San Leandro Creek. There are 7 miles of shoreline in the park and approximately 7 miles of paved trails. The park first started being developed in the late 1970s and into the 1990s, with land formerly the Port of Oakland's. It is exciting that the park is expanding with new and improved projects that Toby will share in detail with you later. This time of year at MLK Junior Shoreline ushers in many important migratory birds along the Pacific Flyway, many that are threatened and endangered. For example, the American avocet, western snowy plovers, and burrowing owls. 200 bird species use MLK throughout the year, and it is beneficial for them to have this space to land, rest, and nest to raise their offspring. Therefore, if you are looking to do some bird watching, now is a good time to spot some interesting birds along the shoreline. In addition to bird watching, other activities enjoyed at MLK are kayaking, canoeing, boating, and fishing. It is popular for biking or walking on the flat paved trails. There is also an observation deck overlooking the San Leandro Bay into the cities of Oakland and Alameda, a boardwalk overlooking Arrowhead Marsh, multiple picnic sites that are used extensively in the summer, fishing piers, and an art sculpture called the Duplex Cone that tracks the winter and summer solstice. To honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Park District built and designed the MLK Junior Grove and planted a garden and a dedication wall in the 1990s. Ever since then, there has been a volunteer day of service on his birthday that brings out hundreds of volunteers from the community to collect shoreline litter and plant trees. The Park District is proud to host volunteer events that bring the greater Oakland community together to benefit the flora and fauna of the MLK Junior Shoreline.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for that really great overview. Now I'm going to turn it over and introduce from our Interpretive and Recreation Division, Jeremy Saito, who's our Recreation Supervisor out at Tidewater. Jeremy?
Good evening, everybody. For those not familiar with the Tidewater Boating Center, it's located off Tidewater Avenue and High Street in Oakland. Completed in 2011, and it's the home to the Park District's Outdoor Recreation Department, as well as the Oakland Strokes Rowing Club. At the Outdoor Recreation Department, we offer public programs out of the center, which includes kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and bicycling along the San Francisco Bay Trail. In addition to programs for the public, we provide outreach programs for youth in the Tidewater service sector. In 2019, we served over 300 youth from East Oakland and the Tidewater area, taking them canoeing and bicycling throughout the park. This year, during COVID-19 pandemic, we've been focusing our efforts on connecting virtually with the community through pre-recorded videos that are posted to social media. Our digital learning topics so far have included introduction to fishing, knot tying lessons, and leave no trace ethics. Also this summer, we've implemented an interpretive and recreation roving program at MLK Shoreline, where we've engaged in over 450 socially distanced interactions with park users to answer the questions, talk about outdoor activities, and to remind people of leave no trace principles such as packing out their trash. You can check out some of the digital learning videos by going to the Park District's homepage and then going to activities and then digital learning. There you can also find links to apply for virtual programs and field trips with the Interpretive and Recreation Services Department. In a moment, I'll share the link to that homepage. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. And then next we have Morgan. She's a naturalist with our Mobile Education Unit.
Hi there, everyone. It's great to join you all. My name is Morgan Gunther, and I'm a naturalist. And since I began with the Park District about 6 years ago, I have had the opportunity to support not only recreation programming that Jeremy talked about from the water, but also to do interpretive programming with kids and adults at the Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline. And you can see some of those pictures here. This land is the ancestral homeland of the Chochenyo Ohlone people, who are the original caretakers of this land and still call the East Bay home today. Being a naturalist gives us the opportunity to share this urban oasis of a park with the community, both through public programming and school programming. Public programming can include things such as naturalists hosting programs like hikes with adults and families to learn about the natural and cultural history of the park, bird watching for beginners and experts alike, hikes for tykes, bringing preschoolers and their caretakers out exploring the park, to name just a few. Our park's prescription programs, Stay Healthy in Nature Every Day, or SHINE, in partnership with UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital Oakland, has an outing to Martin Luther King Jr. Shoreline Regional Park every year as well, and it's always a favorite. Naturalists also support the many volunteer opportunities that Lisa mentioned in the park, lending an educational component to the important work that is being done to protect and restore, including information on the local watershed and highlighting some of the stranger discoveries that are found during the shoreline cleanups. If you've ever done one of those shoreline cleanups, you know there's a lot of stuff out there. Youth-focused school and after-school programming also happens at the MLK Junior Regional Shoreline, connecting students to nature in their nearby neighborhoods, from local schools to Girls Inc. of Alameda County and more. One highlight is actually in collaboration with the Recreation Department, the Teen Eco Action Week, which you can see a couple pictures here from that. And actually, I know we have someone from Save the Bay on the call today, and we actually volunteered with Save the Bay at MLK Junior Regional Shoreline doing some transplanting of plants. The kids biked along the shoreline and actually canoed in the bay as well. With the pandemic, naturalists have still been bringing the parks to the people through roving and also through virtual field trips since April. A naturalist will head out into the park with a cell phone in hand and actually be on Zoom with a classroom or a community group, showing them what's out there in the park. While being in the virtual space is definitely an adjustment to being by the bay together, the discoveries made there continue to provoke curiosity in the groups. In one recent outing that I did virtually, we were actually able to see anemones We got to check out a sponge up close, and even from the observation platform, we saw a leopard shark that was about 6 feet long swimming by. So we've still been able to bring the parks to the people during this time. So how can you participate in or schedule a naturalist program? Like Jeremy said, he's going to pop that link in, but it's apply.edparks.org, and you can request a program either for school, community group, or other organization. And as we look towards that hopeful future past the pandemic, when we can be there together, public programming is regularly scheduled at the park and can be found on our website. And we at some time will be able to gather back together again to be able to tell the stories of the 3 women who helped save the bay, to search for that elusive Ridgway's rail, and to watch a kid's eyes get big in wonder when they realize that there are bat rays and sharks in the bay. And to be honest, a lot of adults don't know that either. So we're excited to still be out in the park and the great opportunities to bring interpretation to all of you in the future.
Great, thanks so much, Jeremy and Morgan and Lisa, for reminding us all that's going out at MLK and the opportunities there to still engage and participate, whether virtually or on site. So with that said, we're now going to move into the main objective today, which is to provide those 2 project updates. I'm going to go and stop sharing my screen until you can pull up yours.
Very good.
Is the project manager for both projects. And so he will be giving that update. And just again, as a reminder, there will be the Q&A time after each project presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Bear with me for one moment while I bring up the presentation. All right. Just want to make sure, can folks see my laser pointer here on the screen? Okay, very good. All right. Well, thank you, Katie. Thank you, Director Corbett, for being with us today, and to Lisa and Jeremy and Morgan for providing us with such a nice overview of really what MLK Regional Shoreline has to offer. I'm Toby Perry. I'm the project manager for 2 new projects at MLK that we would like to update you all on. I'd also really like to thank all of you out there in the community for taking some time out of your busy schedules to participate in our meeting today. As we all just saw from that poll, this is a group that is quite familiar with MLK, but just to remind you of our 2 project locations. In this park map of MLK, you can see our Tidewater day use area over here in the upper left. And then down here on the right is the Doolittle San Francisco Bay Trail project, closer to Oakland Airport down here. I'm going to talk about our Tidewater project first, and then I'll go over Doolittle. I'll pause in between, as Katie said, to allow for some questions, and then again at the end for questions on Doolittle. So here in this image, you can see the Tidewater project site here in the foreground in its current state, with its view looking out across San Leandro Bay. You can also see here the San Francisco Bay Trail as it wraps around the project site along the water's edge. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the San Francisco Bay Trail, it's a planned 500-mile walking and cycling path around the San Francisco Bay, running through all 9 Bay Area counties, of which approximately 350 miles is complete. I think one thing you can see looking at this image, I think we can all agree what a great opportunity we have here for developing a new park on Oakland shoreline. In this aerial image, you can again see the 8-acre project site here in its current state. Here's the Bay Trail that wraps around, as I was just mentioning. The district has owned this parcel of land since the late 1970s, and up until a few years ago, it was leased to a trucking company for storage of their truck chassis. The project site is now empty, and it's currently enclosed with a cyclone fence and closed to public access. Just next door, though, as you've all just heard from everyone, from Lisa and Jeremy, the district already has a strong presence out at the Tidewater area. This is that Tidewater Boating Center that Jeremy referred to that was completed by the district in 2011 in partnership with the Oakland Strokes. And right here, you can see this boat launch that is publicly accessible for kayaks, canoes, and stand-up paddleboards. This boat launch is actually also now a designated boat launch on the San Francisco Bay Water Trail, which is a network of boat launches throughout the bay, all connected, that allow public access into the water. And then also around that time, the district completed construction of the existing Tidewater day use area, this green triangular patch here, which includes a parking lot, a bathroom, and a couple of picnic tables. So with the site vacant, we turned our attention to coming up with a design for a new park. In June of 2017, we hosted a community event on site to gather information about what the public would like to see in the park. We had over 40 members of the public, which included youth, and we had Director Corbett and Director Beverly Lane in attendance as well. We then developed several conceptual alternatives that we provided to the public as part of the survey. In that survey, we solicited comments on the conceptual alternatives, and we got really a great response. We got over 200 responses that articulated which aspects of the design were most preferred. And then with all that input, we developed a final concept plan and presented it to the public in April 2018. So now we're ready to go to construction on the first phase of this project. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But here in front of you is the plan that was finalized in 2018. So as we were developing the plan, we heard that there was a lot of interest amongst local school groups that were currently using the Tidewater site, finding it, they needed a space better for gathering. So, so included in this plan is an outdoor classroom. The outdoor classroom will be an informal meeting space with log and boulder seating to host visiting schools or lecture groups. The new park will include a large play area here, including nature play elements and climbing structures. The park will include a 1.8 acre mowed lawn suitable for active recreation or just lounging in the sun. Many picnic areas have also been placed along the walking paths, including 3 larger spaces with multiple tables for groups. A new restroom building on the site will include 2 restrooms with a drinking fountain and a bottle filling station. Over 50% of the park will be planting, which will include native upland habitats, a coastal plant walk, and stormwater screening plants. And then native and climate adaptive plants will be used throughout the park. Lastly, I'll highlight that the park will include 2 viewpoint areas with seating to look out over the Oakland Estuary and San Leandro Bay. Here's one and here's the other. And then you can actually see here in a section that from here to here, you can see we have this upland habitat with a seating area here, a 10-foot wide bay trail as it crosses in its current location, and then some more seating looking out over the bay here before we transition to riprap and ultimately the bay. So since 2018, when we finalized that concept plan for the park, we've been working with our design consultant to complete the construction documents so we can go out to bid. And our grants department has also been hard at work looking for funding for this project. One thing that we've incorporated into the design here is that the park is now designed to be resilient to sea level rise, more specifically to an expected 100-year flood event in 2070. So in order to do this, we'll need to import soil to raise the level of the infrastructure in the park, namely the parking lot, the entry plaza, the restroom, the play area, and the outdoor classroom, all above the predicted inundation area. So once we bring in this fill to the site, we'll need to let it settle for at least a year before constructing the park. So for this reason, we've broken the project into 2 phases. During phase 1 construction, we'll be relocating underground utilities, demolishing existing metal structure, bringing in that fill, and then grading it so that it can settle in the most effective and efficient way. Completing construction of phase 1 work it'll allow construction of the park features to be shovel ready about a year later. So with all that, I'll share the exciting news that in October, our board of directors approved the construction contract for phase 1, and we plan to be in construction by early spring at the latest. Conservatively, we expect construction of phase one to take no more than 6 months. During that construction period, we ask you to please be patient with us, as public access may be limited during certain periods of time. And certainly as we get closer to construction, we'll be posting signs so that the public know more about what's happening. And then lastly, before a few minutes for questions, in front of you here is an illustration of how we think our new future Tidewater day use area will look as you enter the site from the parking lot. Real quick, I want to express a thank you to our great design consultants at Placeworks, especially project manager Jesse Jones, who's helped us get to where we are today. So with that, I can take a few questions on this project.
Thanks, Toby. So at this time, if you have any questions for Toby regarding the Tidewater Public Access Improvement projects, you should be able to type them in the chat box function. And I believe they'll go, you can send them to, type it and it'll go to everybody. I can read it out loud. The first question, Toby, that I have is related to disabled access. What picnic table designs does the Park District use specifically for wheelchair access? Is it only at the ends of the table or integrated on either side? Also, will all tables have a wheelchair space or just a select few?
You know, well, thank you for that question. I know that we, the district, have, take this very seriously, obviously. We have spent a lot of time, our design team, to make sure that what park features go in there are ADA accessible. And I know that we have just redesigned our picnic table to meet all current standards. And as far as, I'll look, I don't want to answer as to whether every single table meets ADA, but I believe the answer is yes. And I can respond to that.
And Toby, I would just say, and we would welcome as much input as possible with regard to ensuring that we're accessible. So the person who asked the question would like to share more information with us. We'd be happy to have that. So thank you very much for that question.
The next question is, how many miles will the trail be? Will it be connecting to the existing Bay Trail?
So at Tidewater, the Bay Trail is existing, and it does connect. It connects to the south. It connects all the way around to the rest of MLK, and then to the north. Actually, after the Tidewater project, after the park, it goes into streets, and we're looking. I know that the district is currently and actively looking for ways to continue to find shoreline access in that location. But currently, Tidewater is where the trail leaves the shoreline. But as for the bike trail currently bike trail that's currently at Tidewater, it's existing, and we will just be resurfacing the existing trail there.
Thank you. Next question is, how many students will be able to use the outdoor school meeting area?
It's been designed to meet the needs of a typical elementary or high school class size. That's what it's been designed for. Okay. But it is, as I said, it's an informal area where, designed with logs and boulders and such that, for larger groups, obviously in non-pandemic times, but where a larger group could gather around as well if needed. But it's really been designed for school groups.
Next question, will the existing structure, sorry, I lost the question one, there we go, that is currently empty be torn down?
The existing structure that is currently out at Tidewater will be torn down, yes. That will happen as part of phase one.
Will the street leading in be repaved from High Street?
The street leading in from High Street be paved. There's other folks here from the district that probably are better suited to answer that. It will be paved. I don't exactly know what the timeline on that was or is, but the intention is, yes, it will be paved.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Given the existing relationship with Children's, I'm guessing that's Children's Hospital, and the proximity to a number of residential neighborhood with young children, what are the plans to have age-appropriate activities for young children? Young children meaning preschool age. I assume this question is activities being provided by the Interpretive and Recreation Department out at the new day use area once established. Jeremy and or Morgan, I don't know if you have an answer for that or can speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak to the interpretive programs. We base and the naturalist-based programming based on availability of space. And so given this new space, I think we would definitely implement having programs there. We have preschool hikes that already happen in different parks. And so I definitely imagine that we would bring additional programming there.
Okay, thanks, Morgan. All right, this is a slightly longer question, so bear with me. So at 4901 and 4905 Tidewater, adjoining the Tidewater Parkland project, is currently a large marijuana growing facility with plans to construct a 4-story, 6,500 square foot building to increase marijuana production. We live directly across the estuary from Tidewater Parkland project, and when the wind is coming our direction, the overwhelmingly smell of skunky marijuana plants is unbearable. Can you explain the East Bay Regional Park District's plans to construct a family park and coexist backed up to a large marijuana farm and the odors the farm will produce? Isn't there a required separation between marijuana farms and parks?
I'm going to defer to our Chief of Planning, Brian Holt, to answer this one.
Thanks, Toby. Brian Holt, I'm the Chief of Planning, Trails, and GIS for the Park District, and happy to answer that question. As you know, this is an interesting neighborhood for a park. This is an industrial area. We have a variety of neighbors from aggregate plants to different industrial facilities. We have actually been working with the City of Oakland for many years on some of the permitting of their marijuana facilities. And have expressed concerns many times regarding the location of marijuana facilities adjacent to some of our parklands, specifically the Tidewater facility. We're aware of the facility that's adjacent to there. I am generally aware of plans to expand that facility. So we continue to monitor just the impacts on our parks and you know, basically how our parks can coexist with our neighbors in industrial areas. It's not our role necessarily to approve or disapprove of land uses that are adjacent to our park. We really need to focus on the impacts on our facilities and our users. I would say our public safety department is very aware of those uses and are monitoring to ensure the park continues to be safe for park users to go there. And regarding odors, you know, I think I am not aware of particular impacts at this time. Certainly, if that becomes an issue in the future, we have relationships with the City of Oakland, city staff, and will continue to engage to try to resolve those issues. It's a great question. It's part of the challenges of developing parks on an industrial shoreline, and it's really just part of the ongoing relationship that we have with our neighbors and with the city. So it's a continued partnership.
Thanks, Brian. All right, we have 2 more questions, and I think, and then that'll probably close us out for this particular time. The first question is, are there plans for a gate attendant, kiosk attendant for the new park? Toby?
No, at this point, there is not any plans for a gate attendant or additional kiosk. And I did want to just touch on one other question, one of the questions that was brought up a couple minutes ago about the the young kid, the toddlers, the young age children are, if the question was pertaining really to the play area, I just wanted to mention that it is an all ages play area that we've designed. We've developed it such that young and older children can enjoy the space. We've divided the space kind of within the area apart so that the young children can play where they're not interfered with necessarily by the older children. But yes, it will meet the needs of all children.
Great, thank you. Will there be any increased security measures for this larger park, especially around early morning or dusk?
Yeah, I would say that how I'd answer that, we consult with our public safety group as we're designing these parks. So there is patrol of MLK at all, by our public safety staff and operations regularly, but certainly with increased use will come increased staffing from a public safety standpoint. And so there will be a even greater presence of public safety and operations in this area once this project is complete.
Thank you. Okay, last question is there a plan to get new schools involved in the outdoor classroom, especially with COVID? Low-income BIPOC youth need outdoor recreation and ecological education, et cetera, as well. It goes on to say, what is the East Bay Regional Park District's outreach plan to get the word out to more families and schools in disadvantaged neighborhoods such as Stonehurst, Coliseum, Elmhurst, Castlemont, et cetera?
Thank you. And I see Morgan turn on her camera, so I'm going to turn this one over to Morgan.
Yeah, so I really appreciate this question because this is something in the interpretive and recreation department that we really think is an important part of what we do and have been seeking to become more involved. So in terms of engagement, we have a community outreach coordinator who helps us identify different groups, and definitely we'd love to link up with organizations such as the East Oakland Collective and other organizations to help us identify groups. And then we have a lot of opportunities for low cost transportation to the parks once that's available, again, as well through our Parks Express program. So there's a lot of different opportunities to create programming as well as help facilitate bringing those communities into the park, because it is their park to visit and it is their park that is their home park. So yeah, definitely that's something we are interested in and engaged in and constantly seeking.
Thanks, Morgan. Okay, this will be the last question. Will the bike lane be extended along Doolittle from MLK Shoreline near Golf Course to Harbor Bay Parkway?
So great question. This is a question that's a little bit more relevant to the Doolittle project that we'll be talking about momentarily. But I'm going to suggest that's another one I'm going to turn to Brian to talk about. I'm going to suggest maybe we move into the next project, and that we can then circle back after going over that project with kind of some next steps of which we can talk about kind of future Bay Trail plans.
Great. Okay, that sounds good. While Toby is pulling up his next PowerPoint, if you think of a question later or you feel like you wanted just a little bit more of a thorough response, definitely email me, khornbeck@ebparks.org, and I can follow up directly. Again, also for folks listening on YouTube who can't submit their question in the chat function, you're welcome to email me.
All right. Sorry for the delay here. I'm just sharing again. Okay, just bringing back my little laser here. All right, well, yeah, thank you everyone for the questions, and we really do appreciate the discussion and hearing from you and about the matters that are of most importance to you. So moving along now to our other project at MLK. As I showed you in the map earlier, our Doolittle Bay Trail project is actually on the other side of San Leandro Bay from Tidewater, close to the Oakland Airport. Here you can see Doolittle Drive from across the channel. That picture is kind of taken from right here across Airport Channel. Here's the project location along Doolittle Drive from Swanway right here to our existing boat launch and parking lot right here. You can see in this image the extent of the bay trail in the area. The solid red lines show where there's current off-street bay trail, and then the yellow show the unimproved bay trail. This section of yellow line is where our new San Francisco Bay Trail alignment will be. Currently, this portion of the Bay Trail is on the shoulder of Doolittle Drive, which is a California highway where 45 is the speed limit, but cars are often going much faster. Here on the picture on the far left, you can see really how only the bravest of cyclists would be willing and wanting to ride along here. This car in the picture here, as it follows the bend in the road, you can see how it drifts into the bike lane. And I really should be using air quotes on bike lane. In the middle image, you can see the trail after it's left the Doolittle right of way and has entered our park lane. Here, the asphalt is cracking and the trail is narrower than Bay Trail standards. And then finally, here in the third photo, you can see how the trail currently dead ends at our boat ramp with a fence, which forces riders and pedestrians into the parking lot and around. Additionally, the boat ramp itself is eroding and the low floats for kayaks and canoes are in disrepair. All of these issues will be dealt with as part of our Doolittle Bay Trail project. So in these next several slides, we'll talk more specifically about what's included in the project scope. Here in this image is the eastern or the southern half of the project site. Here, the new Bay Trail will be separated. This is where we're going to be constructing a half a mile segment from here to right of where it goes off is the map here. Is where we'll have approximately half a mile new Class 1 trail within the Caltrans right of way along Doolittle Drive. This new Bay Trail will be separated from traffic along Doolittle by a guardrail, and then we'll be also adding 3 pull-ups that will have benches and nice views out over the water. In certain portions of that half mile trail segment, most notably right here in this bend, we'll have to widen the roadbed to accommodate the extra width of the trail. So this will also involve additional riprap, which ultimately means that we will be adding a small amount of tidal bay fill as part of this project. And I'll come back to that in a couple of slides. So here's the other kind of half of the project site. Right here, this is the intersection of Langley and Doolittle. Here we have our existing boat ramp and parking lot. So it's right here near Langley where the new section of Bay Trail that we're developing kind of connects with the existing trail. So in this quarter-mile section from here to here, we'll be grinding out the old trail and overlaying a new wider trail that's consistent with San Francisco Bay Trail standards. We'll be replacing the existing boat ramp with a slightly wider ramp and new low floats that will accommodate kayaks, canoes, and stand-up paddleboards. It's pretty small, but you can kind of see right here that the new route for the trail will go behind the boat ramp and will no longer have that dead end issue. We'll also be providing a new kayak laydown area near the boat ramp so that people can unload them from their cars before they park. And then lastly, we'll be resealing and restriping the existing parking lot, and we'll be planting approximately 40 bay-friendly trees throughout the project site. So now before you are a couple of renderings that depict how we think things will look once complete. These are the areas I just described. On the left is an illustration of the future trail along Doolittle. Here, it's a little hard with the color, but that's where the new guardrail will be. And then off in the distance is a nice pull-out with a bench. And then on the right is an illustration of our new boat ramp with the trail here. You can more clearly see with the trail passing behind the boat ramp. And then if you can see here, the kayak laydown area where some people are congregating around a kayak. So as I mentioned a few slides ago, associated with this project is a small but necessary amount of tidal bay fill. As part of this project, will be mitigating for approximately 28,000 square feet of tidal fill. We've proposed to the regulatory agencies that we remove about 9,000 square feet of shoreline debris and concrete rubble that's right adjacent to where we're constructing this trail. And then to mitigate for the rest of the fill, we've proposed to create 1 acre of new tidal marsh habitat or existing new marsh, which is also located within MLK, less than a quarter mile away from this project. So as part of this mitigation effort, we'll be increasing shoreline tidal habitat by regrading uplands to be low enough to be tidally influenced. And then once that land is regraded, it'll be planted with planting plugs from adjacent marsh habitat. So on this slide here, you can see the proposed plans for the mitigation. They show the existing high tide line in the blue. I know it's a little hard to see, but I'll trace the existing line here with my cursor. It runs along here. And then once we regrade this, the new high tide line will be down here. So we'll be dropping down here. We'll be providing just additional shoreline habitat. It'll meet up with the existing along this stretch. And then down here, we're going to be expanding it right there. Sorry, the next slide takes a moment to pop up because of graphics. So in this slide, you can see on the left of the existing conditions of the mitigation site. And then on the right is an illustration. Again, this is the left is what it looks like today. The right is a depiction of what it will look like once work is complete. You can see the dark vegetation depicts the rare salt marsh vegetation and the wildlife species that will support, such as long-styled sandspurry, the federal and state endangered California's Ridgway's rail, which was mentioned by Morgan, and the federally and state endangered salt marsh harvest mouse. Though you can't see it here in this image, there will be small amounts of water at the base of this vegetation in the tide. So one more item that I'd like to discuss in this project today, and we'll actually be posting a survey question here in a moment because we're looking for some input. As those of you who regularly travel on Doolittle Drive are probably aware, are familiar with this, Watermelon Rock is pictured in the image on the right. Watermelon Rock has been a fixture along Doolittle Drive for more than 35 years. For those of you unfamiliar, Watermelon Rock is a piece of concrete debris that has been painted as a watermelon. So on the left here, believe it or not, PowerPoint actually has a watermelon icon, and I got to use it. I put it here about as close as I could to where Watermelon Rock sits. And as a result of the construction in the riprap along Doolittle, we're going to need to temporarily remove the rock. And our question for you today, which we'll be bringing up in a moment, when construction is complete, we could put the rock back close to its current location above the high tide line, or alternatively, we can move the rock to a new location. We could move it closer to the first bike pullout where folks could sit on the bench and have a clearer view of it, or we could move it up closer to the boat ramp so the public could see it from our parking lot and could interact with it maybe a little bit more closely. But obviously there it would not be visible from Doolittle Drive. So we're going to be bringing up the poll question here in a moment, and I'll give you a chance to answer it, and then we can share the results. All right.
We still have a few people still voting.
Yeah, we'll give you just a few more minutes. Well, it looks like it's been there for 35 years, and it looks like there's a strong preference for keeping it in its current location, which is really of no surprise to me. But we did want to ask here. We know that this is an important feature to the community, so thank you for taking part in that. Thank you for taking part in our question there. So let's see here. I'm going to move on. I'm almost finished. So here's one more rendering of the future Doolittle Drive here. I think it's a little bit easier for you all to see kind of really what new experience we're creating here in this area, taking a location which really had an unsafe passage for bicyclists and really no option for pedestrians, and turning it into kind of a real appealing place to continue your Bay Trail experience from the rest of MLK. So just a quick update on the schedule for this project. Our 100% construction plans were just approved last week, and we'll be going out to bid for construction on this project in March. And then construction on this project will begin in June or July of next year, with construction expected to take up to a year, though I think it'll be less. Again, as we get closer to construction, we're posting signage, as there may be temporary closures to our district parking lots. I'm told there will not have to be any closures to Doolittle Drive, though, as work proceeds. And just as with Tidewater, I'd like to give a quick few thank yous to our great design engineers at GHD, especially project manager Heather Anderson, who helped us on this project for the last 5 years. I'd also like to thank Caltrans for their partnership on this project. We took on a very aggressive schedule to meet some grant deadlines, and Caltrans has done a lot of work in a very expedited fashion to keep things moving along. And then I'd also like to thank the staff at Graybo and Scott, who really helped the district navigate what is a very complicated Caltrans process. So with that, I can take a few questions on this project.
Thanks, Toby. First question is, will this be part of the Bay Water Trail?
So yeah, well, that's a great question. Yes, it will be. And the organization, the Bay Trail, the Bay Water Trail folks have already taken an action to their board and it's already been approved as a location for the Bay Water Trail. But it has not, it's yet to appear on any of the materials for Bay Water Trail, knowing that this project work was imminent. So yes, it's all primed and ready. It will be a Bay Water Trail destination, and it will start to show up on Bay Water Trail's materials and brochures once this construction work is complete.
Next question, will any trees be planted along this new section of trail?
Yes, they will not be planted in the narrow portion right along the right of way where the roadway is narrow, but in the area kind of actually from the image right here and backwards back towards Swan Way, there will be some plantings, and then closer to our boat ramp area there will be additional plantings.
Next question, is there a plan to extend this to the Bay Farm Bridge?
Yeah, so that's, that is something that it is been in the district's interest to do so. We divided this stretch from Swan all the way to Bay Farm and divided it kind of into 2 phases. This represents the first phase with an ultimate desire to work on the second phase to Bay Farm. But I, as I indicated earlier, I think I want to turn to Brian to answer that question.
Sure, great. Thanks, Toby. And if you could maybe if you could just go back to your
yeah, let me
overall
go back
map.
slide. Yeah, thank you.
So so we are pursuing this segment of the Bay Trail from Swan Way to the Shoreline Center, basically because it's a project that we can do. And Toby and the design and construction staff have been really creative and working with Caltrans to try to find a way to do that in a way that we can work within the existing right-of-way and minimize our impacts on the bay and sort of facilitate that. But yes, we recognize that sea level rise is an ongoing concern throughout this area. We're challenged in this stretch in that we don't actually own property from the north of the Shoreline Center to Bay Farm Island to the golf course. So that northern section of Doolittle Drive, we don't actually own that property. We don't have the ability to really implement a project or to control that. That said, we absolutely have interest in closing that gap and working to complete that with the Bay Trail. So this is part of what the Park District does and working with our partners. So Doolittle Drive is a state highway. It will be subjected to flooding. It is subjected to flooding as a result of sea level rise. So ultimately, Caltrans will need to pursue an adaptation project for Doolittle Drive. The Port of Oakland, of course, and the Oakland Airport has an interest in protecting their facilities. They will need to invest in an adaptation project in the future. So Park District is very interested in partnering with those other agencies that actually control the land there and have the ability to implement a project to make sure that when they do, the Bay Trail will be included. And that's really kind of the beauty of this project, is that we get a trail on the ground. We're able to do so in a way that doesn't impact the bay. And eventually, once the site does need to be raised up, the trail will be raised up with it, and it will be ultimately an adaptive solution. So we continue to have conversations with the Port of Oakland, with Caltrans, with the City of Alameda, with the City of Oakland, on what the ultimate adaptation strategy is in this area. But in like a lot of places around the Bay, it's sort of a challenge between what's the near-term sort of interim project versus what's the ultimate solution. So we continue to move forward interim projects while we have an eye for that long-term solution that's climate resilient.
Thanks, Brian. Next question, are there preemptive things in place here for the rising sea levels as well as at Tidewater?
I think Brian kind of just addressed that. Really, we are working within the Doolittle right-of-way. We know that there to be concerns regarding sea level rise, and we'll be partnering with those agencies in the future. Brian, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to add to that, I guess. So I guess it's important to recognize there's a big regional effort to try to address risk associated with climate change and sea level rise through the BCDC, Bay Conservation Development Commission, through their Adapting to Rising Tides program. There was a Resilient by Design effort that focused in on San Leandro Bay. The San Francisco Estuary Institute has moved forward with a climate atlas. So there's a lot of work being done on a regional level to try to model and assess risk. We've been moving forward with a risk assessment and prioritization plan, the Bay Trail RAP plan, as we call it, that is trying to look at these individual sites and trying to identify projects that we can move forward with as a park district, and then other projects where we need to partner with others. City of Alameda has been really progressive in moving forward with their climate adaptation and resiliency program, and the City of Oakland as well has done a lot of work around their shoreline master plan and climate adaptation plan. So I think it's important to note there's just a lot of different efforts that are going into these different shoreline sites to try to predict and try to adapt to climate change. And so there's a much broader effort beyond just the park district, but we're at the table, and we're very much a part of the conversation in each of those efforts to try to continue to advance the district's master plan, advance and close our Bay Trail gaps, and make sure that we're providing a resilient shoreline.
Thank you. Here's the last question. Will there be adequate space for bikers and walkers? It seems rather narrow from the rendition.
Yeah, and Katie, I'm happy to answer that, and I will do so in a moment, but I did want to just go back to the last question, which I believe also asked about Tidewater, and just wanted to re-emphasize that yes, Tidewater, we are making the project resilient to sea level rise, as indicated. Really, that's the push for this phase one, which is to bring in 20,000 plus cubic yards of fill material to raise the site up to be resilient to that sea level rise. to at least ensure that the park infrastructure, the hardscape, et cetera, is going to be resilient to that sea level rise. As some of the softscape planting areas could change with the changing tides. So responding to the most recent question about the Bay Trail, yes, we've done all we can. We're staying within the, we're trying to stay as much as possible within the guidelines put out by the Bay Trail for their standards. We are restricted along that stretch a couple of feet because just the narrowness of the road. But we still feel it's more than adequate. We're going to be having 3-foot shoulders on either side of the trail. It's going to be 8 feet in the center with 3-foot shoulders on both sides, which we think is more than enough width to accommodate both cyclists and pedestrians. That's so.
Okay, thank you. So because we're just slightly past 7, there is one more question from East Oakland Collective. I can respond to you directly. And so before we close, Director Corbett is going to share a few words.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this great presentation. And I want to thank the staff for enlightening us about this really important project. So thank you for that. And I'd also like to thank the elected officials that joined us and their staff. So thank you to Congresswoman Lee's office and Senator Skinner's office and Assemblymember Bonta's office. But in particular, thank you so much for Councilmember Gallo for joining us in person. We really appreciate that. I don't know if you want to say a quick something before we end, or would you like to just say something?
Well, no, I just want to give thanks to all of you. I certainly know that area. We hike it, we bike it, and I'm really looking for the expansion that you're promoting, and anything that we can do to help you. I know you somebody brought up the marijuana distribution site is across the street there on Tidewater. Then down the street, of course, we have the manufacturing. They make chocolates, cookies, and so forth down the street. But I'll be more than happy to work with you to make sure that our children and our families utilize the park, the trails. And is for me, your proposal on Doolittle, wow, because I walk on the other side, Harbor Bay trails, right? And we always say, I wonder why we can't walk down but that road, there's a safety issue. But I am really, I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad you presented it, and I'm ready to help you in any way that we can. All right, Ellen. So thank you for your work also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Gallo. Thank you for your many years of service to Oakland. We certainly appreciate that, and look forward to partnering with you. And thank you for your offer to help as well. So thank you for that. And then just the last couple comments. Thank you, staff, for answering the questions about sea level rise. This is an issue on many of our minds, and I just wanted to mention to the public that the Park District pays very close attention to this. We're very concerned about sustainability of our shorelines because we have many, many miles of shoreline. So we will continue to work on behalf of the public to try to protect infrastructure, and on the other hand of it too, do what we can to fight climate change. So hopefully that will help us in the long run as well. And then the one last thing, thank you again to all the public who is here with us today. We really appreciate your comments. And in particular, I'm so excited to hear from the East Oakland Collective and First Five. We look forward to programming with you for this really great park that's near some really great neighborhoods. So thank you for commenting on that. Hopefully we will have your contact information so we can stay in touch with you as well. And with that, I'll just turn it back over to Katie. And thank you, Katie. Great meeting and great presentations. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ellen. So thank you again to everyone who came and presented and participated. This was my first time putting together a virtual community engagement meeting, and we really appreciated getting all of the questions and being able to engage with you. Just as a reminder, whether you participated by watching on YouTube, or you were here today in this Zoom meeting and had a question but it didn't get answered, or you thought of a really great one after this ended, you can email me at khornbeck@ebparks.org. My email address should be on the screen right now. You can always go to the Park District's planning page for project updates to see where things are at with either project. That stays pretty current, so you can always go there as well. So with that said, again, thank you for being here tonight. So everyone have